Welcome, everyone, to the lineup. I'm Rick Goff. I'm your host for tonight. And joining us tonight is Joe Mooney, coach, father, player, all the above at one time or another during the last 20 or so years. Joe, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rick. I can't believe you'd actually have me on. This is an honor, but I'm looking forward to not talking about Ohio State with you at least.
No, we're not going to talk about that tonight. We do enough of that off the record and have a lot of fun with it. You and I go definitely back and forth. You've had the best of it for the last couple of years, but I'm praying that we get redemption on January the 3rd in a championship game and we walk away with a national championship. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, you can hope all you want, but I think I like the topic that we're going to be talking about, which is baseball.
Well, we're going to get started with that. Talk a little bit about the days of coaching youth baseball and now that you're older. What was some of the things that you would do different? But you know what? Hang on. Before we go there, let's start with this. How did you get started coaching youth baseball?
So it's an interesting question. So I vowed I would never coach baseball. So I played in high school, played in college at Michigan, and I vowed, and I didn't play that well at Michigan, but I still played. But I vowed, I said, I'm not going to coach my kids. I'm not going to be one of those guys, right? That basically says they know it all and that sort of thing. And what happened was Jack, my oldest, came home and he's like, yeah, my coach told me to do this. And he had like this really weird stance. And I'm like, what? And he said, yeah. And I'm like, okay, enough. So I'm going to be coaching you now from like next year on, right? And I'm like, and I didn't want to be one of those dads that also says, don't listen to the coach, because I'm a big believer that the coach is always right. And that even when he's wrong, he's right. So I didn't want to tell my, 5-year-old son, hey man, don't do it that way. So the only solution was, if you don't like the way it's coached, then guess what? Volunteer and do it yourself. Yeah. And so got into coaching, started coaching, Jack and Alex, my two oldest, and then Ryan, obviously later, but started coaching them and decided, hey, we need a place, that we can go to that has an indoor facility. And I, worked with got a warehouse, turfed it out. It was a small little thing compared to what the facilities are now, but we were really one of the first facilities in Metro Detroit for baseball only. And, had some batting cages, had retractable cages, had a place for you to throw when it's, snowing out and getting better. And I think that's one of the reasons some of the northern hitters are so good now, is because they've got all these facilities that they can hit indoors during the winter. So that's how I kind of got involved. And it was kind of like, hey, don't complain about it. Go do something about it. If you want to help your kids, then guess what? Volunteer. And that's how I got involved.
So when he came home when he was 5, was that through a summer program or something through school?
Yeah, it was like a local community rec thing, I'm happy that the dad that was volunteering, good for him, right? I mean, he's allowed to teach it any way he wants. And he's, like I said, coach is always right.
Well, that brings me to another side point before we get into this, is in the high level baseball world, it's almost like daddy ball is a taboo term, right? I mean, you hear it all the time, you experience it all the time, but I try to remind everybody, every coach, I don't care if you're Jim Leland to Mike Matheny to ourselves, at one point we were all dads that coached our kids. And I grant you there's some bad ones out there, but if it's not for dads coaching baseball, what do you have?
Totally. 100% agree. And you don't want it to go and get scrutinized so bad that it goes the way of the umpire, which it's so hard to find umpires now, right? Because it's kind of a thankless job. And it's the same thing with like daddy ball. And of course, it's funny is that Alex, when I first started coaching him, and you could ask anyone on the team, I batted him ninth. And he probably deserved to be batted higher in the lineup, but I batted him ninth, and he was so mad. Like, why are you batting me ninth? And this is terrible. And I'm like, hey man, you're the dad. I'm your dad, and you are unfortunately a player that has the dad coach. You have to be 2 or 3 times better than everyone else and make it so apparent that it's like that you have to be better. But right now you're going to hit ninth. And until you show everyone that you're better, you're going to hit ninth. And he was irate at me and did well. And then finally the parents came to me and said, we kind of understand what you're doing. Stop it. We want to win. Bat them up in the lineup. And I'm like, okay, but again, it was the first part of it was, hey, my kid's not going to have any, opportunities more than anyone else. He's going to have to earn it just like everyone else, and even earn it even harder. And so I think that we put those kids in positions like that to really earn it and to show that you really want your son to earn it. Then I think you get the respect. But frankly, as you got older and it became, over 12 years old, I personally didn't really care what the parents that said anyway. And I know you don't either, is that sometimes they ruin it. And so at that point, you're trying to please them as younger ages. You're trying, make it a good experience for everyone. And you're trying to make sure you're teaching your son a lesson that, hey, there's no free lives or free things in life, right? You're going to have to earn everything you have. And just because you know someone in the real world doesn't mean you don't have to work, and doesn't mean you don't have to perform. And so that's really what the lesson was being taught there.
Yeah, I had a similar situation with my son. He's 28 now. I coached him during those formidable years when he was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And I kind of took the same approach that you did. And I talked to him years later, and he was a little bitter about it because he felt he got the short end of the stick every time. When we were up big, he was the first one I took out, right? I mean, we're up 10, 11 runs. All right, you're going to come out and let these other kids play. And he tells me now, he's like, you know what? I got screwed in my youth by playing for you because I always got the short end of the stick.
I think that's really common. And that's why I think that daddy ball sometimes gets a bad rap. I always tell Alex and Ryan and Jack, I always say to them, I go, man, they always go, you remember you did this to me? Like, you pulled me out of the game earlier. I didn't get to do this. I wasn't playing shortstop. And I'm like, hey, don't worry. Send me the therapy bill, my friend. Right. Send me the therapy bill. Sorry for the whining right now. I apologize. You want some wine with that cheese, or cheese with that wine. So I'm kind of like, look, they'll be fine. And, we tried our best. That's the one thing that I can say is that I wasn't perfect at all as a parent, as a coach, anything. And I admit that. But I tried my best and I gave it my all. And that's, as a parent, that's all you can really do is, 90% of the game is just showing up. Right. So.
One thing I like to tell a lot of people when I talk to them, and I get a lot of phone calls from younger coaches and asking me, how I did certain things. And I try to tell everybody, as you get older, you get wiser. Your whole demeanor changes. Did you find that to be the case as you progress through these stages from youth baseball into being a parent? I mean, if you had something to do differently back then, what would you do?
It's a good question. I probably wouldn't take it so seriously or take myself so seriously. It's not a reflection. If you lose a game, it's not a reflection on who you are as a person or who you are as a competitor. It's part of it, right? And I was probably way too competitive. I was one of those guys. I admit it, right?
I was right there with you.
I'm a competitive guy by nature, and I don't apologize for it either. And I thought it taught. So when you ask like what I do differently, it's interesting is that mistakes are part of the process. So going through it, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to do some dumb things, right? And you're going to say some things that you go, oh gosh, I probably wish I wouldn't have said that to that kid. Or you're going to drive home and go, God, I might have been too tough on that kid when he did that, and it was a mental mistake by him, and he shouldn't have made it. But at the same time, probably want to be a little bit better person, or got to kind of remember that he's 9 or 10, right? Let's remember that.
Right.
And so you're kind of like, wait a minute, you're making like a 10-year-old run laps, come on. So there was some stupid stuff like that I did. And, mistakes are part of it though. And I still, I laugh about, there's a story that one of my old players, when he was 10 years old, maybe 9 years old, His name was Owen Angle. And Owen kept trying, he was a catcher, and he kept trying to block the ball with his arms. And he literally try to, catch it and block the ball with his arms. And I was trying to teach him to use, chin down, chest protector, and try to get it out in front and use his equipment. Yeah. So I tied his hands behind his back as a 10-year-old, right? And fired balls at him and like made his chin go down and blocked it from his chest. And he reminds me to this day, he's like 19 right now. And he's like, oh, Coach Mooney, or 20. And he's like, oh, Coach Mooney, remember you did that to me? And I'm like, no, I don't remember that, of course. I have no recollection of that at all, But in reality, it's like kind of stupid, but, you did it. And it probably made him a better blocker. I'm not going to lie. But just the tactics that you do as a coach, you kind of learn and you kind of go, gosh, I was really taking that pretty seriously. I sound, especially, new coaches that they have, if their oldest son is playing or it's their first time coaching, I highly recommend you get a coach that is experienced, that has done it before on your staff. Not another, like you can get another dad, but I would ask the question of who's done this before. And I had a guy named Tom Esfan. I think you probably know Tom Esfan. And
I love Tom.
Great. Yeah, Tom was great. Yeah. He was like really intense guy, super intense guy. But he was also someone that was like, it's not about you, Joe. It's about the kids, right? And he was always reminding me those things of like, you're arguing balls and strikes with the umpire. When's the last time you saw an umpire change a ball or a strike? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, and you're kind of yelling, maybe in between the innings, you may want to walk up to him, talk to him privately, not show him up. You probably would appreciate that more, right?
Yeah.
And those are the types of things where you're not yelling from the dugout, that was outside, in those types of basic things that you learn from having someone that's talking in your ear that has done it before. So I would recommend that. And so, yeah, I made a lot of mistakes. Owen Angle, like, probably never forgive me. I'm joking. He probably will.
Yeah. In today's society, they that might be some criminal charges filed.
Yeah.
As far as...
I mean, I'm sure Owen is. I could told him again. Send me your therapy bill, Owen. I'll take care of it. Send me
your therapy bill.
Yeah.
I know one of the things.
No, he's fine, and it's an inside joke with us always. But a lot of great. It was the best memories really of my life of coaching those kids, and the pictures I look back on them and the hotels and the best. Like I have no regrets from that aspect, because how can you have regrets about spending time with your kids?
Spending time with your kid. Yeah. I mean, you're traveling all over the country, doing things, giving them an experience. And my son is grateful for that to this day, being able to travel and do the things that he did. He will always remember that. And he's grateful for that. One of the stories I like to tell from my time as coaching is when my son was on his 11-year-old team, we were, I don't know, we were like 64-4 playing baseball that year. And
should have played up.
We did. That's including playing
up. We have too many wins. You got to challenge yourself more. You need more losses in there.
We went down to Florida. We were 64-4. We came back from Florida 64-8. And realized real quick it was a whole different ball game down there. But my parents, to this day, they'll tell me, hey, remember that really? And we had a really good 11-year-old team. He said, remember that really good 11-year-old team? And they're like, yeah, you were like 64-8. They go, no. The boys were 62-1, and you were 1-7. As the coach, that's what they tell me. So, you never get any respect as being the dad. Well, listen, Joe, you've been a great sport on all this. I really appreciate it. Again, valuable information that I think that my viewers will find interesting and intriguing. Thank you again for taking the time tonight, and good luck to both Alex and Ryan and your older son, Jack, too. Good luck to all of them and on their ventures. And we'll check back in with you maybe down the road and kind of see how things worked out.
Thanks, Rick. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You're awesome.
All right. We'll see you.